Welcome to the Branded Market Podcast, the show for short-term rental owners who want to turn their listings into legacies. I'm your host, Allie Haney, owner and co-host of multiple properties and founder of Branded Market, where we help Airbnb hosts and short-term rental investors build intentional brands, smart marketing systems, and guest experiences that actually move the needle. Each week, I share practical strategies, real-life stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you attract the right guests, increase bookings, and run your rental like a business, so you too can be the best in your brand and your market. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Branded Market Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Haney, and I help short-term rental owners become the best in their brand and their market. Today, we are going to be focusing around a marketing topic, but more specifically, we're going to be focusing around direct booking sites. I have seen in the past, let's say 4 to 6 weeks, an increase in people calling me to see if they can get a direct booking site. And the marketer that I am, I try to figure out why now people might be looking to utilize a direct booking site as opposed to what they're typically using, which is the OTAs or online travel agencies such as Airbnb and VRBO. So I'm a little late to this topic because a lot of the major changes that Airbnb rolled out, they rolled them out in October of 2025. And at the time of this recording, it's February 2026. But I have a feeling that people are now starting to actually feel the effects of what went live back in October. And that's probably the reason that I'm seeing this increase in inquiries specifically around direct booking sites. So let me take you back and tell you exactly what changes Airbnb made last year. So Airbnb always had a service fee attached to a reservation. That service fee, however, was paid between two different parties. And those two different parties were the host and the guest. Makes sense, right? That they're splitting the fees to be able to access the online travel agency, the OTA, to be able to book on Airbnb. So what that split fee used to look like was that the host would pay around 3% of that service fee, whereas the guest would pay around 12.5%, give or take a couple percentages. Now, that has changed for some hosts, not all. So as of October 27th, 2025, if a host is using a PMS or property management software, so for all of us listening here that might use a property management software or don't yet use one, that could be a software like Lodgify, Hospitable, OwnerRez. All of those are considered PMS systems. Typically, what you do on the back end of Airbnb and your PMS system is you integrate those for a few different reasons. So you can funnel all of your messages for all of your rentals across all of your platforms into one unified inbox on that PMS system. So as a host from now on, I am just logging into Lodgify to be able to see all of the bookings across all of the properties, across all of the OTAs, including my direct booking site, in one spot rather than having to log into Airbnb and then log into VRBO and then log into my direct booking site. It funnels them all to one place. Additionally, it syncs all of those calendars. Additionally, it often gives you access to be able to create a direct booking site of your own. This PMS does. Okay, so now, as of October 27th, 2025, the hosts that use those PMS systems are now shouldering the entire 15.5% service fee that Airbnb charges. So that's a very large jump, right? From originally as a host, I was only paying 3%. And now as a host, I'm paying 15.5%. That's a significant difference in what my payout is going to look like. So in the Airbnb and the short-term rental communities, if you're using a PMS system, you can, for the most part, I think most of them allow you to go in on the back end and say, okay, for this specific OTA, I want to increase my prices by X amount or X percent. So the number that was circulating in those communities was, if you are a host that uses a PMS system, you need to increase your prices by 18%. 18%, so that you can maintain the same payout that you would pre-fee structure change. That's absolutely crazy. That often outprices you, like you're already pricing, right, to be competitive within the market, to appeal to your ideal guest avatar. So obviously that impacts the amount of bookings that you could get because you are pricing so far above the competition, that competition that might not be using a PMS system and is still being able to have only pay the 3% service fee. That feels crazy to me. And a lot of times I feel like if you are a hobby host, a host that might only have one or two properties, you're not trying to make this your full-time gig, that you might kind of just like roll your eyes and continue to move on. It's not that big of a deal. A, because it's not the income that you rely off of to live, or B, because you don't have a property management software and you're still in that 3% bucket, so to speak. Well, first, if you're like me and you gloss over when numbers start to be thrown around, like I want you to listen up now, because I actually have an example from one of our rentals just to show you the vast difference in what this means for payouts for hosts through Airbnb who are using a PMS system. So the property in Kentucky, I'm being like super open and vulnerable with this, like real numbers, okay, not sugarcoating anything. The property in Kentucky, we have 2 reservations in March, back-to-back weekends. So one is like the 19th, I think, to the 22nd. And then the other one is like the 26th, whatever the next weekend is, 26th through the 29th. So the first reservation for the March 20th weekend, that one came in before October 27th, 2025. So that one still reflects the 3% service fee that Airbnb was taking. Mind you, we also use a dynamic pricing software. And what that means is that the pricing software is able to read trends in the area to be able to help you price your property accordingly for the date that it's being booked, the season that it's being booked, whether there are events going on in your town. And while you do put parameters around, like, minimum nightly rates or maximum nightly rates, you can tweak it here and there, but just keep that in mind, because this first reservation on March 20th that was booked prior to the service fee increase was booked at $792 a night for 3 nights. So the host service fee was 3%. That's a total of $83.28 taken out, retained by Airbnb as a service fee. The total for that payout is $2,692.72. Let's just round up and say $2,700 for a 3-night reservation in March at $792 a night. Now, the next reservation was made post fee change. So after October 27th, 2025, I am one of those hosts that use a PMS system. I use Logify, and that is now reflecting a 15.5% host service fee being taken out. So the caveat here is that this guest booked at $865 a night. So it was $792 for the first reservation, $865 for the second reservation. So like I said, I'm not really a math or numbers girly, but that is 92.8 plus 65, $72 more per night. $72 more per night. Both reservations were 3 nights total. The host service fee is now $418.04. So compare $418 to $83 in host service fees. And the payout is $2,578.96. So same 3-night reservation. I'm charging $70 less per night for the first reservation. And I'm still receiving a lower payout for the higher nightly rate. And I know that none of this is rocket science, right? This is just basic math, but I want you to understand what it feels like as a host if you don't have the capability not to be reliant on Airbnb or VRBO for your bookings. I just want to be clear that Airbnb and VRBO are always going to do what is best for Airbnb and VRBO. They're not going to do what's best for us as the hosts. Hell, they're probably not even going to do what's best for the guests either, because the whole point in this was that it is transparency in pricing to the guests. But is it really transparency in pricing to the guests if there's still a circle of hosts that are able to do the split fee model where they're only paying 3% and the guest is still paying that difference in 12 to 15%? Like, does it really make sense? Is it really in the guest's best interest? If this transparent pricing is indeed such a high priority on Airbnb's list, let's just think forward for a second. How long is it until they come for those hobby hosts that aren't using a PMS system that they also have to pay the full 15.5%?
I'm going to take a second to give you a little bit of tough love. We all love Airbnb. It's where most of us got our start. But what happens when Airbnb increases fees for hosts? What happens when the Airbnb algorithm no longer favors your property? Well, at that point, it's time for you to take your short-term rentals marketing into your own hands. I created a free quiz to help you figure out where you should start marketing your short-term rental. Look in the show notes for the link to take that free quiz, and the results will be sent directly to your inbox. Let's help you to be the best in your brand and your market.
So I actually did a little kind of experiment because I know exactly what Airbnb has put out publicly. They say that it's not going to, as of right now, they have no plans of changing those hosts that are not using a PMS system over to the 15.5% fee. I'm just very curious as to when that's going to be changed. And I posted in a Facebook group of short-term rental owners that I am currently in, just to see, have there been any hosts that were, the 3% camp post October 27th that have been bumped up to the 15.5% fee in between October 27th and present day. And it's an ongoing conversation in that Facebook group. But as of right now, there's been at least one host that was supposed to be in the 3% split fee camp because she didn't use a PMS. And she's already somehow, she doesn't know how, been kicked over to the 15.5% and can't find the setting within Airbnb to change it back. I'm sure you guys can probably see where I'm going with this. I really, truly anticipate that it's only a matter of time for all hosts to have to pay that 15.5% fee. In fact, on that same thread in that Facebook post, there was someone else who is very credible in the space who said, right now, Airbnb has already rolled out the flat 15.5% fee for hosts in international countries. They just haven't done it here in the US. And they are anticipating that this is basically like a beta testing system to see what works and what doesn't. But my argument back to that is, if in the international countries, they see a decrease in the use of Airbnb and an increase in direct booking sites, do you think that Airbnb is then going to actually flip back the structure to the split fee of 3% to 12.5%? Or even if they change the percentages and split it 50-50 at 7.5%? Or does that negate their whole loyalty to the transparency and guest pricing train of thought? I have a hard time believing that Airbnb is going to do anything that lessens the fees on the host and then pushes them back onto the guest. I just don't think there's any real way. Again, my question is, what if they decide in the US to apply this fee to everyone, regardless of their PMS usage? What's the backup plan that's going to not force you to fork over the extra 12.5% more per booking? The solution to this, of course, is a direct booking site. The caveat, of course, is that if you have a direct booking site, in order to have one of those, you have to have a PMS system in order to do that. Now, one thing I did find interesting, and I had not heard of this before, was that one host uses a PMS called Hospitable, and she has only some functions that are connected to Airbnb. I'm going to see if I can try and explain this well, because there's a big tech stack that kind of goes into it. Okay, Airbnb is the OTA. Hospitable is the PMS. Then there's this thing called Price Labs. That's the dynamic pricing tool that I was talking about before. She is only utilizing Hospitable, the PMS system, to bring all of her inbox messages into one inbox. However, she has Price Labs the dynamic pricing software directly connected to Airbnb rather than connected to Hospitable that feeds to Airbnb. And then she connects the calendars. This is how I understand it. I'm not totally sure if this is right, but she connected the calendars between Airbnb and VRBO. So those two are talking to each other. So she's using Hospitable for one functionality that allows her to still opt in to that 3% pricing structure as if she's not using a PMS system. I still think that all of those types of workarounds are probably going to get shut down pretty quickly. And at this point, she's not using the direct booking capability or functionality of that anyway. So in conclusion, what I'm saying is a direct booking site is going to be the way of the future if you want to build a sustainable short-term rental business outside of the online booking platforms. Again, I absolutely think that Airbnb, if done correctly, like it can serve as a really great funneling tool to your direct booking site. Don't actually say it in the messages on Airbnb. I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point that anytime a host sends a link that sends people off platform, Airbnb is scraping messages. They have AI bots that look through all of those links to make sure they're not being sent to a direct booking link. They scrape the messages to look for the word direct all the time to make sure that you're not taking them off Airbnb platform and sending them to your direct booking site. However, especially if you are in a seasonal market, like a mountain market where people come to visit every year, or a beach market where everybody comes to visit once a year, use Airbnb to initially get them in your door. And then after that, inside of the rental, have a way to push them to your direct booking site. Have a way for them to refer a friend to their direct booking site. Like, use the best of both worlds and have the direct booking site as a contingency plan, as a plan for the future, especially when I believe they will inevitably impact all hosts with that service fee change in percentage for payouts. So with that being said, if a direct booking site is on your list of goals for 2026, please reach out. I'm going to link the consult call link to my calendar in the show notes. I would love to be able to help you with that. And fun fact behind the scenes of Branded Market, we are growing so very rapidly, which is super exciting. I just hired on a website designer, so I get to walk you through with all of the strategy, and we go through what exactly is going to be on the site. And then I get to hand it to a designer who's actually even better at me than web design. So you are coming into Branded Market's ecosystem at the exact right time if you're looking for a direct booking site to be able to take your short-term rental business to the next level. I would love to be able to help you build that business, and this is one way that we can do that. So go ahead and schedule that free consult call. If nothing else, I can probably deliver some free value to you on that call within the 30 minutes that we have together. So awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you all next week.
You just completed another episode of the Branded Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.